Welcome to ACF Chefs Forum. We appreciate you joining us today as we learn about modern and trending barbecue techniques. Of course, a big thank you to Smithfield Culinary for sponsoring this fabulous educational opportunity for ACF chefs. Now, more than ever, and especially during this difficult time, it's important for culinarians to connect, to share, and to offer inspiration and mentorship, which is exactly why we're excited to have Chef Bill Twaler CEC here with us with important information just for you, the leaders of the food service industry. Before we begin, as a note, we'll be taking questions from you, the viewers, as we are able. Please use the chat function to collaborate with other viewers and the Q&A function to pose questions directly to our guest chef. So let's get the conversation going in the chat. What is your favorite barbecue dish? And also let us know where you're tuning in from today. I'm Jackie Pressinger, American Culinary Federation's Director of Strategic Partnerships, and I'm honored to introduce our guest chef today, Chef Bill Twaler from the Truist Culinary and Hospitality Innovation Center at Greenville Technical College. Thank you so much for joining us, Chef, and at this time, I'll pass the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, American Culinary Federation, for having us for this, as well as Smithfield. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about some modern barbecue techniques. We're going to do some things that are a little bit different. I know that everyone loves, thinking about traditional wood barbecue, things of that sort, good South Carolina, North Carolina barbecue, but we're going to put some science into it and play around with some different kinds of things that we haven't really thought of in the past when it comes to barbecue. Today we have a pork cushion, which was a new kind of cut to me. It comes from the picnic shoulder part of the pig, the front leg, where we would usually get Boston butt to do our traditional barbecue and things, or do the whole leg if we were doing a leg style barbecue. But it's a very interesting piece. It is highly, it's got a lot of good marbling in here. There is some connective tissue involved that we're gonna remove when we do our cook, or before we do our cook. The other interesting thing about that right now, everybody's kind of thinking about price points and such. This piece of meat is much lower than other, similar pieces we might be using to do barbecue or doing some sort of catering or center of the plate or something fun and different. So we're going to get started first with cleaning these, and then we're going to go into 3 different recipes, 3 different ideas using our steam oven to do it sous vide or combination cooking also. So we can sous vide in it and then go back and finish with some smoke. Let me wash my hands and get started. So as I started to do a little research on the pork cushion, I thought about the idea that, it's something different, something new. And somebody brought up the point that it was triangular shape. So the first thing I thought, kind of, morphing that between beef and pork, is thinking of it as kind of treating it like a tri-tip in sense. Obviously, we won't cook it to medium rare, but to put some flavor on it, and then put it into the smoker, the sous vide, and then finishing it with some smoke for doing a little sous vide barbecue. But to get started with that, that's probably the easiest cut that we could think of when we do this, as opposed to, getting into burnt ends or strict barbecue. But starting with our piece, you can see that it has been, they debone it, take it off the bone, the lower part of the leg, but I'm going to take the skin off. So removing that silver skin, a little bit of the fat, just trying to trim up around the outside. And then I thought about, as we're doing the tri-tip, we think about Santa Maria style California barbecue, a little bit of smoke, a little bit of flavor, some char. We're definitely going to give it a nice rub. And I also, one of my favorite dishes is if you think about like a Cuban sandwich. And I thought this would be a really nice piece instead of pork loin, but to use the cushion. And thinking about tri-tip, we could cook it and then serve it in slices for a buffet or a banquet or some sort of event of that sort. This one is nice. It doesn't have a lot of silver skin on top. You will find them with some silver skin. You can seam them out nicely too. There are some little pieces of muscle that can come off if you want to save those. You can easily do burnt ends, which is one of the other dishes we'll talk about and show today. Thinking about different styles of pork cookery or barbecue. Burnt ends, we usually think of brisket, but here we're going to play with a lot more people are doing pork belly burnt ends. So I think this would be a good replacement using the cushion for that. You look at, a nice little cap here, just get under, take that out, get as much without ruining like the integrity of the cushion. I want it to still be whole so that I can do the slicing if I did a Cuban or slicing it for a catering event. But we get that out of there. Because also, if we have soft fat or any sort of little bit of extra soft fat on the outside, that's going to melt while we cook it. You'll see that. And of course, fat is flavor, so we want to be aware of that. So we'll save that one. We've got another piece here. Again, looking at getting the fat off or the silver skin. There's save all the trim you can. That's all money. We always think about that. If we don't use it for burnt ends, we could always use it to make sausage. It's a very good application for this. Sort of mix in, but it does have some interesting little chunks. Just get that out of there. I haven't seen any. I mean, it's not lean, but it's pretty much 100% usable product. There's not a lot of loss. There's a little bit here, but I don't think an immense part. If you were thinking about breaking down or cutting out, pork, the Boston butt, trying to move parts around in that. All right, let's get this one little piece off of here and we'll come back to this. But what I did when I did the tri-tip is I thought about rubs, and like we said, we talked kind of about Cuban a little bit. So I took it, rubbed it with some of my favorite spices. A lot of people will say, let's come up with our own spice blends and things. I went to a class with an excellent chef, and he's like, some of these people have developed these spice rubs with hundreds and hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars invested. So every once in a while, you can take that shortcut and use a spice rub that's already been made. So I take, for my Cuban style, switch up here. I take two of my favorite spices. You can find these on any grocery shelf. A little bit of Old Bay. And along with the Old Bay, I like to throw some Cajun seasoning in there, or in this case, it's actually Old Bay and Montreal chicken seasoning. So rub that on the outside. I'm gonna put that together. Get a nice coating on it. And then when we go to sous vide, we think about the different times and temperatures and things like that. We've been talking about different temperatures for pork, doing ribs or anything other pork wise. So when I do my sous vide pork for barbecue style techniques, I like to think of like the 150-degree range. 145 could be a little bit stiffer, a little bit more like a pork chop. And then in the 150, there's give, but it still has texture. It hasn't gone as far as being completely soft or pulled like pulled pork would be. So it gives you a little bit of texture to it. It gives you a little bite, and it gives you some flavor that we can add to that. All right, so previously we put this into the sous vide, put it in a bag, vacuum sealed it, and then last night, of course, I came in, so we had 24 hours to cook on it, and put it into the combi. We're gonna pull it out, get some really good smoke here. Move this to the side. Get the raw out of the way. We'll come back to that. Keep sanitation. Wash your hands. And if anybody has any questions as we're going, you know, if you think of anything as we're going along, I'm sure Jackie can share those with me. I have no problem. I would be happy to answer anything thought-wise or other as we're going, or if you want to talk about different barbecue trends, I love to think about those things as well. But I do, you know, we do use the combi oven to do some smoking, long range. This has, so they haven't been in long to get the dark crust on the outside. Turned up the oven slightly, put the maple smoke. Maple is my favorite smoke. I also like to blend maple and hickory, but maple is one of my favorite smokes. So I put some maple smoke on there. You can see that it dried out, gave it kind of a nice bark, has a nice crust. It may not have the extensive smoke ring that you can be looking for in some ideas. I've heard of people adding liquid smoke to the bag when they cryovac it, or when they seal it and put it for sous vide. So that would be an option. I'm not 100% into liquid smoke. I'll be honest with you. It is, you know, chef's preference, what they like and what they want to do. All right, so take these off. We're going to slice these, do a nice little, just a new different style on a barbecue sandwich. But you can see the crust. Crust is important. You've got that bark. If it's in a display, if you're doing it in a catering, people are gonna look at it and see, yeah, it resembles barbecue. It's not something you're gonna see all the time or think about, but just a simple slice through, nice muscle, good slice, good flavor. You're not getting a lot. It's not falling apart. It's not crumbling, which I think is important if we're going to do this sandwich style or something of that sort for a buffet or an event. You could also easily have a, you know, your house barbecue sauce ready to go. We actually went to our local Mexican grocery store and got some pollo. And this would be, you know, it's another great option for doing some sort of event or sandwich or something that you can do as a inexpensive catering, because this is a lot less expensive meat wise for a carving station. It has good flavor. I'll guarantee you it has good flavor.
Chef, that looks delicious. Some of the chefs who are commenting in the chat are wondering how long in the combi and at what temp.
So I cooked it at 150 degrees for 24 hours. All the moisture is still there. You can see it juicing in the screen. I hope you see that. So it's very moist. We could put it in for a little bit longer to get more smoke out of it, but it does have a slight smoky flavor. I just, you know, when you introduced the cushion to me, I just thought it was a really neat idea of using a different muscle group for barbecue, and it slices like roast beef. It's nice. Kind of want to eat some more. Jackie interrupted my lunch by accident, but this is an East piece. We're cutting across the grain, so it's super tender, and it has, you know, a great look to it. Something that you could try. You could even, so from this point also, if you wanted to, and I have a different model for this as well, but you could cut this up into your burnt ends, put it back on the smoker. You could put it on your outdoor smoker. This is a great way to, you know, we all know about sous vide. We can chill it, bring it back to retherm it, put it back on the grill, put it back on the smoker. but you have the great possibility here. And this is, see, it is soft. And people will be like, oh, burnt ends, and then it just melts in their mouth. Put your favorite barbecue flavor on there. I think you're kind of good to go with that. It's really impressive. I mean, I had never really thought about it, and I want to keep eating it, but we've got more things to look at. So a nice little barbecue sandwich we have in front of us, we can make up. I mean, it just seems very versatile and very good way to make a dollar, when right now it's important to make money. So we can make a dollar there. Next part, we're going to go to back to our cut here. So we had trimmed out and gotten ready to do the tri-tip. Because it does, if you threw this on the grill, I mean, there's no way that I wouldn't well, I mean, okay, it's not beef, you know that. But with the flavor and the idea and the marketing and thinking about, hey, we're going to do a pork tri-tip, and people are like, oh, what is that? You know, we haven't heard of that. What is that new idea, a new concept? All right, you can see our smoker is going really well. We've got it set up behind us. So the next part that's going to come out, we're going to look at St. Louis style pork steaks. I'm originally from Iowa. I admit it. I had never heard of a St. Louis style pork steak. Moved down here to South Carolina. The barbecue, you know, barbecue is life here. It's very important to a lot of people. It's about culture and tradition. And as things move, we've had some people from Texas come in, and we've got some traditional people that are transferring into some more Texas themes. But thinking about the St. Louis pork steak, you could do mini pork steaks with the cushion meat. So traditionally, the pork steak comes from the Boston butt, where they would do a cross cut opposite the shoulder bone. And the history is kind of confusing, but the interesting part was that I heard or read about in the 50s that in St. Louis, you know, around holidays and things, they would run out of St. Louis cut ribs. So the butchers were ingenious enough to start selling pork steaks. And this is something that you can cook quickly. You can do, I've done them at home in under 3 hours with smoke and such. So again, we're going to cut across the grain because we want a tender pork steak, but it's just a small, I did them in inch cuts, nice pork steak. The little bit of vein that goes through there, we saw here, it's tender. It all breaks down. That's the other advantage. So we're going to slow cook sous vide for 24 hours. All of that, the intermuscular fat, gelatinization, we've got great moisture content that's just, the piece is not going to dry out, which is of course very important. The customer wants a good piece of meat to eat. So pork steak, and then thinking, I like some new flavors. It's more modern. We start thinking about Asian flavors and things like that. So again, going back to what can I buy, what's easy, what might be in the pantry that's been sitting around that I can't get, that I need to use. So I do like Old Bay, I'll admit it, but this is a curry bay. And from the classes I've taught and doing, I think curry and Old Bay kind of mixed together, and it really, you know, you see people rubbing things with mustard. I think the curry powder has some of the same ingredients, obviously, with mustard, turmeric, and things like that, but it really draws out pork flavor. So St. Louis steaks, rubbed them with the Old Bay, the Bay curry bay rub, however you want to talk about it. Put those together, nice flavor. They go into the bag. I'm not adding any moisture because there's enough fat in that already in the pork. Goes into the bag. And again, we did a 24-hour cook at 150 degrees so that we still have some texture, or it's not going to crumble. I don't want it to crumble. I want it to still have that mouth feel. I just don't want it to be a pile of mush. So our next part of this also I love to read different kinds of barbecue books or even different books, and this kind of got inspired. State bird provisions. We were doing a recipe with that in one of my classes, and they do it with pork belly. And since we were talking about things that are a little less expensive right now, I opted to go away from the pork belly, use the cushion meat, which I think is a great option. And we're going to do a Plum fish sauce barbecue sauce. So, you know, you're thinking about all those things that come with great pork or great barbecue sauces. You've got acid, some vinegar, some rice wine vinegar I like to use. We've got some fish sauce, a little bit of water to tame it, some sugar. So plain sugar, fish sauce, that pungency, savory umami, vinegar, a little bit of oil. Mix those together. Then, you know, the greatest part, microplane some garlic in there. Do as much or as little amount of ginger, but the ginger really makes it pop too. But we'll put that in. You can let this sit. We can put this in a squeeze bottle. But it's kind of like the traditional recipe was deep fried pork belly, which of course, how can you improve on deep fried pork belly? But we're going to play with a little bit of the barbecue cushion meat. So we're going to bring that out. And again, you can put as much or as little as you want in ginger, garlic. We have some serrano. We have some local plums even. So it is plum season here in South Carolina. So we've got local plums to go with this. Step back from, you can get plenty of smoke in one of these. Sometimes I'm surprised how much smoke is in a steam oven, but we've got a good bit there. Still going. It's smaller chips. It's not the, you know, it's not chunks. It's not big chips. So they're sort of a medium size. It's not the dust, although the dust will work. But you can see the exact same pork belly we have here. They've been smoking for not a long period of time, just a little bit, just enough to give that flavor on the outside. You can get a smoke ring in the oven. The idea is to have enough steam because smoke will stick in a wet environment. It works better, and that's a nice size, and we can do a lot of things with it for your event as well, I believe. So back to the local plums. These were actually grown by our director. Put those in, save some for garnish if you're not. It's easy enough. Just, we're gonna cut around the pit, slice on one side, save this, make some vinegar out of it, do something a little different. But just so we're not fighting that pit, we're just shaving those off. You can do this with any stone fruit, nectarines, peaches, apricots. They're all in season right now. Delicious. I think I'm kind of a fruit junkie, and I think fruit pairs really well with this. Mix that around. Of course, we need some lime juice. So some of that acid. My limes are smaller than my press. So lime juice, everything's about a quarter cup of lime juice, oil, few teaspoons of sugar, quarter cup of fish sauce. You can use more fish sauce. If you don't like fish sauce, you could, you know, if your clientele is more of a soy sauce world, you could do that. I just think the fish sauce and pork, they really kind of play really nicely together. Let's do one more. And then I like heat. Can't have, now you gotta have some sweet heat. Shoot shoot some lime juice all the way across the stage. There we go. And then Serrano, give a little kick. Put that together. You can see pork steak. We talked about pork steak. Let's get a platter. Oops. Don't want to lose a sponsor. Pick that up right away. So pork steaks, I'll cut a couple of these too, but you could do a platter right out of the smoker, like so. Throw some plums on top. Love the gloves. A little cilantro, sort of a rough. Like, yep. Plating's beautiful. Cut the pork. All right. And then right over the top, let's see what we have here. So nice piece, sliced thin. Again, a nice look. It's got that good, beautiful. That would be another pork burn-in kind of option. There we go. We can even do this right on the board. Put a plum in there. Plate in threes.
Chef, we do have several questions that have been
Okay.
coming in from the chef viewers, and I was wondering if you might be able to give some advice as to the best way to smoke meat inside if you don't have a combi oven or steam oven.
So another option inside, is to do the old hotel pan with the perforated hotel pan. I'm not sure if you're going to do a large quantity, you could still, people hate this, but electric smokers. If you have a electric smoker, you can do Alto Sham style smoker. But the old, you can add smoke to the outside, maybe not cook it completely, finish it in the oven, low and slow, like we would know to do, like a low, slow braise, delicious sort of steamed in flavor, but get a nice crust on the outside, smoke it real heavy on the outside first, and then finish it in your oven. I think that'll work very nicely. We just want to make sure that you get it to the right temperature so that it's soft and falls apart. When we do pulled pork, we're looking for around 200 degrees. I'm dying to taste this. Really good. That umami. Forgot about TV bites. You can get the smoke. It's got that umami flavor. There's a nice blend between the spice rub and things, fruit, the sweetness, the spiciness, and I really like fish sauce. So another really good option, doing a St. Louis pork steak. And you don't have to do it this way. You can do it traditionally. You can rub it with a Kansas City style sweet molasses barbecue sauce, put it back in the oven, finish it off traditionally. You can make your own, if your resort has a barbecue sauce, or your country club or your restaurant, you have a specific barbecue sauce, It's still tender. It's still juicy. It's very flavorful. A great way to, again, I think, make some money in this time when we want to make money. Yeah, the indoor smoking is, I think, really mostly would be having the old perforated pan on top of a deep hotel pan, wrapping it tight, getting your wood chips to burn, set them in the bottom, let it smoke through. And when you get that crust on the outside, you can kind of smell, I think you can put them all together. Another option, we used to do this, we had a wood burning pizza oven. At the end of the night, when the coals went down, we would wrap our pork, throw it in the wood burning pizza oven overnight, and just let it sit. And the next morning, we had fantabulous pulled pork. So that's, if you have that option, that's a good option as well. Move this to the side so that we can go back to our last cut. All right, so our last one still in the bag. So I did actually do all these sous vide. I didn't lie to you. They're in the bag, ready to go. This is the burnt ends, which, so you have the trim. If there's things left over, a little bit of trim. Excuse me, say that you're, the sliced meat from the other day, you still had some extra, you can cut it in 1-inch cubes, and you can make a beautiful burnt end out of that, or make it a, pork barbecue. One of the things I remember growing up in Iowa, all of our barbecue was sauced, baked in the oven for a long time, cooked and caramelized and sweet and juicy and delicious. So you can do a sort of a Midwestern twist on that for a sandwich or something. You've got a golf course, you can have these leftovers, throw them out as a barbecue sandwich on the turn. Great idea, very delicious. So here we are, last cut. Actually, let's do this backwards. We are going to open these up, put them in the smoker, bring them back out. So we've got the bag. You can save the purge. It's another great way. I did it with the other ones. I'm not so sure if I wanted to have the purge on the burnt ends, just because super sweet. So this is kind of a play on like a New Orleans barbecue. So I was playing something different. I did a class last week on Gulf Shores, New Orleans cuisine meets current sort of culturally. We talked about the Far East and things, and how Vietnam has influenced Gulf Shores cuisine and such. So I went with a really heavy sweet rub. It is part chicory coffee, part Cajun seasoning. And this can be, you can make your own Cajun seasoning, which I like to do. I add a little extra oregano, a little extra thyme to my Cajun seasoning. Kind of gives a little kick. I think a little bit more herbaceous fun. And then brown sugar. This case, dark brown sugar. You can use light brown sugar. You can put a little molasses in it even. But we've got those. They have that nice, they have that coating. It's all, sorry. So it's sweet coating, a little bit of spice, just a light hint of coffee. We're gonna take those out. Yeah, that's some sweet heat. Some of these are a little bigger because, again, I use some of the trim, and burnt ends. This has a nice burnt end flavor. Delicious. But you can see, so here's our little trim pieces that we showed earlier that went back in the bag. And this also, I did 24 hours. You can save this. You could use this as the base for your barbecue sauce very easily. The sauce from the whole roasted sort of tri-tip, or from the St. Louis steak, I've used that in rice to kind of do a dirty rice, or do some sort of play on rice that we would serve, hash and rice. You've got that great quality, not throwing away anything. So, you know, you develop a lot of really good flavors inside the bag, and I don't want to get rid of those flavors. We paid for those flavors. We want to keep those flavors, but you can see the crust on the outside from the coffee and the Cajun seasoning. And then the dark brown sugar, I think, gives it a little bit more smoky, lively, molassesy flavor that I kind of like with barbecue. If you think about burnt ends are more traditional Kansas City, Texas, of course. Let's go back to molasses being the flavor of of Kansas City area, Midwest, and such. But so we're going to cut these just a little, give them that burnt end, that kind of square that we kind of typically think about. If you think about brisket, that point being all crusty. So we're going to come back with our crusty point. The other thing, advantage wise, we can throw these on the grill, give them some little bit of heat. We can crank up our oven to 500 degrees like we do and brown them up that way. We don't want to scorch them. The next kind of fun part of this flavor is the sauce, which we have in the squeeze bottle for one, but again, nice moisture. Look at that. There's nice, good juice. We're not drying it out. The sous vide is going to help with that. All right. And then our little chunks that we had left over. Next thing I want to do is I would either dip these in the sauce or I would just squirt sauce on top. So we're going to go with sauce on top. We'll move this up. Strip those out. Good coating. And so other parts, flavor-wise, we're making our barbecue sauce. What are different liquids we could use? This is one of the kind of a new flavor I put in. I thought tamarind, thinking about the Caribbean influences in New Orleans and such. Also, little tamarind soda. You know, it doesn't all have to be plain. Use Coke, anything. The key to using the sodas in your barbecue sauce, though, make sure that it's real sugar. We accidentally tried to make a Dr. Pepper sauce and somebody had high fructose corn syrup and you just could not eat that. It was not good. So back into our oven. I'm going to crank it up. And then we're going to use the benefit of high wind, high fan. So we're going to get that crust developed. Still have a little bit of humidity in there to help everything move around. There we go. All right, Jackie, do you have anybody have any new questions?
Yes, we have plenty of questions. Okay, so let me see. Well, first, I'm wondering, some of the chefs were wondering if you might be able to briefly review the cuts that you used today and perhaps the suggested cooking times or method for each of those. So just briefly running through which you had used in your demo.
So this is all pork cushion. So it's all from the picnic shoulder, anterior part, boned out, bottom leg, very well used piece of meat. All we did was trim off the silver skin that you'll see. So here we would take the silver skin off, trying to leave it so as whole as possible. So if we're doing the sliced tri-tip, pork tri-tip idea, I want the muscle to be one solid muscle, rubbed put into the bag, cooked at 150 degrees for 24 hours in the steam oven. And it, you know, it came out juicy, it came out flavorful. The pork steak that we had, another kind of, I can show you here again. We got another clean board here. So the pork steak, we took a cross section, we cut across the grain. We don't want to cut width, obviously, because that makes it tough. And we took, I like to do like a 1-inch steak like they would. It's just a smaller pork steak as opposed to the cross section of the Boston butt. So nice, you can see the nice marbleization in there. There's a little bit of intermuscular fat and things, and all of that gets nice and soft. So if we're cooking low and slow, sous vide at 150 degrees, all that melts, gets tender, and even the you know, the nice grandmother at the wedding event or at the wedding reception will be able to eat the pork cushion muscle. But it's just a piece I hadn't thought about. It's a great idea, inexpensive. What else you got for me?
Very interesting. We know you've mentioned brown sugar and molasses. Some of the chefs were wondering if there's other sweeteners that you might be able to recommend besides sugar for barbecue preparations or sauces.
The other day we did honey. You could do agave. We did a mustard sauce with honey in place of sugar. I think sometimes the sugar sodas work well to replace that also. I haven't dove into like Splenda or anything like that, but those sorts, honey, agave, what other liquid, those are the top 2 liquid sweeteners I think are. Sorghum, if we're thinking about south in the southern area, sorghum would be a big one also. Cane syrup, all of those kind of, anything but sort of the, you know, the highly processed sort of high fructose corn syrup. I'm not a fan of that in the sauce. I wouldn't necessarily put corn syrup in my sauce. I think most of the people back in the day that would have used corn syrup are now switching to honey and agave. Let me wash my hands. Okay, so we were talking about regional barbecue styles. New Orleans, I don't know if they have regional barbecue style. I might have just created that myself today with the brown sugar, Cajun seasoning, and coffee, or the chicory coffee. Texas is huge. I don't think of sauce when I think of Texas, although it seems to be sort of that same Kansas City molassesy red sauce. But if you do brisket right, it doesn't need sauce. I have moved up in the world. When I serve my brisket, I like to do the same horseradish sauce that you serve for prime rib, I serve for brisket. So that's my secret to you. Of course, you have Alabama style barbecue sauce, that white barbecue sauce. Dip smoked chicken into it, great with wings. Some of the new things are coming out. You've seen peanut butter and jelly wings at barbecue places. I think that Midwestern thing is just straight molasses, rich ketchup based, delicious sauce. Those are probably the big 5 right off the top of my head: South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Kansas City, and Texas. Of course, Texas is big enough to be its own country. Let's get these out. We're gonna finish up strong with some burnt ends. Oh yeah. So that was quick. They weren't in long. I'm move my pig so you can see. But we have delicious burnt ends here. Think about, this would make a great platter. I may not have enough burnt ends for the platter, but this would make a great platter. Putting that down, sauce, the same sauce that you kind of burnt ended. That's a word or an adjective. You can see caramelization and still fork tender, nice and soft. So we'll pile those up. You imagine I think this would be a great little snack. And it's a little less expensive. You could do a small plate of these in a restaurant. just developing your own sort of personality and touch. But so some of the trim pieces are on there. Some of the pieces that we had from different ideas are there. Go back over the top. You can never have enough sauce on those. Come back with a little greenery, a little cilantro. Even finish it with some crispy flake salt. So you just have a little texture. We've got about 10 more minutes. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Don't let the Smithfield sign get out of the way. But I think after this is done, my technical assistant, Gavin, and I are going to have a little enjoyable lunch feast for sure. Any other questions?
Yes, well, I wish I was there. Everything looks spectacular. Thank you so much. I'm wondering if you might be able to share one or more mistakes that chefs should avoid when preparing barbecue or when they're starting in learning more about barbecue.
Probably learning more, patience is a virtue. I think a little lower temperature is better than a higher temperature. A water bath. I love a water bath. Even when, I smoke in a Kamado at home all the time. Water bath is, even with a deflector, a water bath is just a nice sort of safety net. And, I was taught that having more humidity in the environment makes the smoke cling better. You get a better smoke ring with a little wetter barbecue environment. It's kind of, it's neat. The modernist idea or sous vide barbecue is a fun sort of thing. You don't have the equipment. You don't have the time to, put into watching the fire, tending the fire, making sure everything is going. You can cryovac, put it in the oven and leave it. You could do Boston butts this way too. It's very, very approachable. Just make sure, like we said, the sanitation is at the forefront. Make sure you have your HACCP plan. You don't want to upset anybody at the health department. That's never a good thing. But just patience and read and experiment and enjoy, think about salt, pepper, spice, sweet. I like a balance, a little bit of salt, a little bit of heat, a little bit of savory, kind of herbaceous. And then, of course, a little bit of sweet to that. One of my favorites is just mixing light brown sugar and Cajun seasoning together. You can buy that in the grocery store real easy if you're in a hurry or in a pinch. Gives you that sweet crust and a nice little flavor penetration.
Excellent. And I was also wondering, I know that we have some students who are tuning in, and of course, this recording will probably be played in many classrooms over the next year. What advice do you have for young chefs and those who are emerging professionals in the food service industry?
Well, I think for young chefs, it's important to collaborate, start your network, do as many things as you can while you're young, take as many opportunities that are afforded you. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what way it's going to go because of those opportunities. Always put your best foot forward, even during hard and trying times. Try to keep a smile on your face. And that's not just talking about COVID. It's just, sometimes it gets hard in the kitchen. Just count to 5 and keep going. Enjoy yourself. Read as much as you can. Take the opportunities. If you see your favorite chef is coming to town, go, try to go to the dinner or go to the lecture, read their books, email. You never know what somebody might say. If you email them, they'll come back and give you the answers to culinary life. Who knows? The best thing you can do is try. If you don't try, you'll never succeed. So you've got to try.
Excellent advice. And Chef, you're also going to be a featured presenter on ACF National Convention's hybrid agenda. What can the chefs look forward to in your presentation?
So we're going to do some more sous vide barbecue. Watching the internet, I'm very interested in ribs. Sometimes I don't like to spend all the time it takes on the cooker to get the ribs done perfectly. My wife's favorite thing is ribs. So one day I decided to Google how to sous vide ribs, and we followed through with that. I didn't know how many people might have had the same interest, so we're doing a study of sous vide ribs for the ACF National Convention. Very tasty, very interesting. You'll be, I think you'll be delighted to see what happens.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait. Any final words that you'd like to leave with the chefs who are tuning in before I wrap everything up?
Thank you very much for joining me and giving me this opportunity. It's the first time we've done a live ACF 1-hour virtual webinar. So we're looking forward to maybe partnering some more in the future, and hopefully we'll start a strong collaborative group here. And if you're ever in Greenville, South Carolina, come by and see us at the Truist Culinary and Hospitality Innovation Center, and we'd love to show you around.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. And this was great. I definitely think that this is a topic that we should expand upon. And thank you so much for lending your expertise to the webinar today and for all the effort that you put into your demonstration. I know the chefs appreciate it very much. So a huge virtual round of applause as we thank Chef Twaler, and thank you again to Smithfield Culinary. This was such a fun and interesting and insightful presentation. I feel inspired. I wish I was there in South Carolina to taste those amazing barbecue specialties. But again, we appreciate you taking the time to share with the ACF community of culinary professionals. The ACF wants to hear from you, the viewers, so be on the lookout for a survey that you will receive by the end of the week. You'll need to complete the survey in order to earn your 1 CEH. And if Chef is able to share the recipes with us, then we will include that along with the video of this presentation as well, which will also be posted on the ACF Online Learning Center at ACF YouTube channel. But if you're interested in hearing more about what's trending, what's hot, new techniques, new skills, then definitely join us for more inspiration at the ACF National Convention in Orlando, August 2nd through the 5th, or register to attend and join us virtually. There's actually a flash sale for the virtual right now. Well, you'll be able to learn from over 75 featured chefs and watch the main stage presentations live from Orlando. You certainly don't want to miss out on 26 CEHs. So register today. The $99 flash sale for virtual attendees ends on July 5th, and the link is in the chat. This will be our final ChefsForum webinar for the summer until after National Convention. So you can watch the recordings of all of these on the ACF Online Learning Center, and we will hope to see you soon. On behalf of the ACF and ACF National Office, thank you again to Chef Twaler, and thank you all for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.